Welcome to the Top 10 Gardener with Master Gardener Ken Lain. Gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and top 10 advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now, welcome your garden host, Ken Lain.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lain, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. And it's finally in the 70s. What this means is your gardens, once they start to flower or leaf out, once they start to grow, you need to turn that irrigation on. It's time. And you can literally start planting flowers and vegetables. It's planting season. That 70 mark seems to set the stage. But mainly right now, I'm starting to tweak and adjust my own irrigation at my house. And I think you should be doing the same thing. And the clue is your daffodils are in bloom. The forsythia they've got golden yellow. Your purple leaf plums are in full that pink bloom. The Bradford pears have that white flower all over them. It's this time that leaves are starting to show up on your roses. These are things that once they start doing that, it takes moisture to do that. And so especially if we get a little cold snap, which is very possible through April, you should water things right before the cold comes, because a hydrated plant goes through the cold much better than a dry plant, especially your fruit trees. So if you've got fruit trees, so I noticed the cherries just started to crack color this week. And so they'll get more glorious in the next 10 days or so. They'll be going to full bloom. Well, as they open up, they'll need a moisture to keep that going. And if that flower is exposed to freezing weather, it can damage the flower. If the fruit that forms very shortly, you'll start to see little tiny apricots and peaches and nectarines and cherries and apples and pears. As that fruit forms and it freezes, it's like taking a plum and throw it in the freezer, and then you bring it back out and let it thaw. What happens to it? It turns to mush. And so you don't want your trees to do that. Now, the insider tip on this for fruit trees, at 32 degrees, you lose 10% of your fruit mass, mainly the outer tips, those upper edges, because the core of the plant's still protected by the heart of that tree. At 31 degrees, you lose about 20%. The magic number is 28. At 28 degrees, you lose all the fruit. And so all the flowers, all the fruit, if they're cracked, the flowers open or the fruit is on, that's when the damage. If that flower bud is closed, it's protected. It insulates, it's got a shield on it. And so you don't have to worry about things that haven't opened yet. So I notice the apples have not cracked. They've not opened up or flowering yet, at least at these higher elevations. Maybe over in the Verdes, the next elevation down. But even then, it'll be middle to the end of this month when that really takes off. But your apricots, they're starting to bloom. Plums, they've started to bloom. Cherries just opened this week. Here in Prescott at 5,700 feet, that's where I'm at. They just opened. And so when that happens, you want to put a sheet, something that breathes over that flower to keep the frost floating above the tree. Plants have a way of insulating themselves. And so if you can keep the frost off of them, permeating down in the inside, the heart of the core of that tree or that shrub, then you can keep the fruit intact. Some of your neighbors, they're not crazy. They've got a sheet over them. They got a light underneath. It's like they're glow in the dark, like they're creating little ghosts out there floating around the gardens. Well, they're putting a heat source. A little bit of heat with some covering makes a huge difference. But at 32, you lose a little bit. At 31, you lose a little more. At 30, you lose about half. At 28, you don't want your plants to go to 28 if they're a fruiting plant. If it's a flowering plant, so what? It'll leaf out right after that. That's just kind of something to watch as we go into the fruiting season right now. The fruit trees are actively starting to go. You should definitely turn your irrigation on when that happens. Keeps them blooming and protects them. So a hydrated plant, in fact, I like to hose down the ground underneath my fruit trees, because there's something about water as it freezes, it releases energy. There's something about that there's some physics that I don't understand, but I know it works. So it'll gain you a degree or two more in cold temperature before damage really uh, eats through and permeates the entire tree. So hydrate plants. Watering, you're probably right now. I'm setting my clocks in the morning. I'm trying to be at dawn. So 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. I want to hydrate things before the heat of the day. So I'm watering deep soak my trees and shrubs. Hour and a half, 2 hours. My drip system is on. So it's a micro irrigation dripping 2 gallon per hour head, or 1 to 2 gallons, pretty normal. It's got to run for 1 to 2 hours before you get a gallon of water out there. So that's a 1 gallon per hour head. It's got to run for an hour before 1 gallon of water is dripped into that spot in the garden. So you got to run these systems a long time. I'm watering those trees and shrubs about once a week. That's for right now. That's more than enough. My flowering things, more often. So flowering things, containers, vegetables, herbs, especially new things, new pansy, hanging baskets that I just got. Just brought one home. It's glorious. I'm watering that every other day. My containers, bigger pots, whether it's a rose in a pot or container or just flowers, every 3 days right now. That's where I'm at. And so as it heats up, I'll do it more frequently. So that's and you should be close to that, I would imagine. Okay. Fruit, your vegetables. This is the week that we started full complement, as many as we can get. Not every variety is in stock right now. Like I don't have the funky, weird, interesting marjoram. I don't have that yet in herbs, but I got all the other sages, all the other strawberries, all the other rosemaries and lavenders and oreganos and thymes. They're here. You could put those in now. One that I would watch a little bit would be my basil. Basil's a little wimpy when it comes to, if it gets below 45, basil's not happy. So, but thyme, it doesn't care. Lavender, they don't care. Rosemary, they don't care. Basil and cilantro, those two I can think of are the ones that I might wait a couple weeks before I put that in, but all the others, go ahead. All of your leafy stuff, I mean, bok choy to broccoli to cauliflower, you should feel pressure. You should get these in the ground now. Don't wait. They don't like the summer. You want to get them in as soon as you can before summer. So you're harvesting that stuff before they start to bolt into flower. Then they lose their flavor. Tomatoes, you could probably put a few tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, squash in the ground if you protect them, especially at the higher elevations. So you still got April you get that one last freaky weather event. There's going to be one more. I don't know. It's not on the forecast, but it's going to happen. You'll get that one last thing. And these tropical plants, the summer plants don't like spring. They like summer. And so tomatoes and peppers and squash, these are all summer plants. So, but I put a few in and I put plant protectors around this. These little mini greenhouse teepee things. You can put them in the ground, in the garden, put this plant protector around it. And I've literally had them snow on my plants and they were just fine. In fact, it heats up the soil where you plant this thing. So these summer plants like warm soil. Well, the soil is not warm yet. It's still kind of cool. The days are warm, but the soil is so cool. Well, it warms that soil up, just boom, just like that. So it really gets them rooting and growing fast. If you want to brag to your garden neighbors how you picked your first tomato and it's 3 weeks before theirs are even thinking about ripening, that's how you do it. Or a greenhouse. That's just cheating. You folks with greenhouses, I'm so jealous. I wish I had a greenhouse. I don't, but I've got plant protectors. So there's lots of vegetables in the herbs are just the inventory is growing dramatically by the week at this point. Every Wednesday, at the Insider Tip here at Waters Garden Center, every Wednesday afternoon, the new truck of flowers, vegetables, and herbs shows up. If you want prime time first pickings, show up Wednesday afternoon and you go right to the loading dock. and they're all right there. We've got a lot in store for you. Lisa Waterslane is coming in with your garden questions right after this. Water's companion plants for April are purple twist plums, perfume lilacs, columbine, and Arizona gaillardia.
Gaillardia is the perfect mountain perennial with huge fiery flowers on a compact plant.
She loves the heat and super drought hardy.
You can count on this bloomer to show off all summer long in raised beds, containers, or in the garden.
Javelina and rabbit proof. This bloomer is a must-have Arizona plant.
Arizona gaillardia, found at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott. You're listening to Garden Master Ken Lain, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join his daily podcast for timely garden advice seasonally right for the gardens. Ken can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott or through his website at top10gardener.com.